December 20th, 1968, a date etched in infamy. It was a Friday, the start of Christmas vacation. Young love was in the air. Betty Lou Jensen, a bubbly cheerleader, and David Faraday, a star athlete, were on their first date. They parked on Lake Herman Road, a lover's lane nestled in the quiet town of Benicia, California. Their night ended in a nightmare. Gunshots shattered the stillness. 5 shots rang out, piercing the night. Betty Lou, struck from behind as she tried to run, lay lifeless on the ground. David, shot once in the head at point-blank range, slumped over in the car. Their young lives, full of promise, were snuffed out. The brutal double homicide sent shockwaves through Benicia, a town unaccustomed to such violence. Who could have committed such a horrific act? Why? The questions hung heavy in the air, unanswered. The police were baffled. There were no witnesses, no apparent motive, and very few clues. Little did they know, this was just the beginning. A reign of terror was about to grip the San Francisco Bay Area, leaving a trail of blood and fear in its wake. The Zodiac, as he would soon become known, craved attention. He wanted notoriety, infamy. This was not just a desire but an obsession that drove him to meticulously plan his every move. He was not content with merely committing crimes. He needed the world to know about them, to fear him, to be captivated by his actions. And he knew just how to get it. The Zodiac was a master of manipulation, using the media as his stage and the public as his audience. He understood the power of fear and how to wield it effectively. In July 1969, he sent a chilling letter to the San Francisco Chronicle. This letter was not just a message, it was a declaration of his presence, a statement that he was watching, and that he was not going away. It was the first in a series of taunting messages that would terrorize the Bay Area and captivate the nation. Each letter was a piece of a larger puzzle, a glimpse into the mind of a killer who thrived on the chaos he created. The letters were handwritten, often filled with misspellings and grammatical errors. These errors were not just mistakes, they were part of his persona, a way to mock the authorities and show his disdain for societal norms. They were bizarre, rambling, and disturbing. Each letter was a mix of threats, boasts, and cryptic messages that left the recipients in a state of unease and confusion. The Zodiac claimed responsibility for the murders and threatened more violence if his demands weren't met. His threats were not empty. They were backed by a chilling track record of violence. He demanded that his letters be printed on the front page of the newspaper, or he would pick off some kids. This was a calculated move to ensure maximum exposure and to instill fear in the hearts of the public. But it was the ciphers that truly set the Zodiac apart. These were not just random symbols. They were carefully constructed puzzles designed to challenge and taunt the authorities. Interspersed within his letters were complex codes, puzzles he claimed held the key to his identity. These ciphers were a game to him, a way to prove his intellectual superiority over the police and the public. He taunted the police and the public, daring them to crack the codes. Each unsolved cipher was a victory for him, a testament to his cunning and elusiveness. Some of these ciphers were solved, offering tantalizing glimpses into the killer's mind. They revealed a man who was both brilliant and deeply disturbed, a mind that thrived on chaos and control. Others remain uncracked to this day, their secrets locked away. These unsolved ciphers continue to haunt those who study them, a reminder of the Zodiac's enduring mystery. These letters, with their threats, boasts, and cryptic messages, became a terrifying hallmark of the Zodiac case. They were more than just communications. They were psychological weapons used to manipulate and terrorize. They were a window into the mind of a madman, a twisted form of communication that fueled public fear and frustration. The Zodiac's letters and ciphers remain one of the most chilling aspects of his legacy, a testament to his ability to instill fear and fascination in equal measure. The Zodiac investigation was a tangled web of dead ends and false leads. Detectives found themselves chasing shadows, with each clue leading to more questions than answers. The complexity of the case was overwhelming, and the pressure to find the killer was immense. Hundreds of suspects were considered, each one scrutinized under the harsh light of suspicion. The police worked tirelessly, sifting through mountains of evidence and following up on countless tips from the public. But the killer remained elusive, slipping through the cracks time and time again. The frustration among the investigators was palpable, as they watched potential leads evaporate into thin air. One name, however, would become synonymous with the case: Arthur Lee Allen. His name surfaced repeatedly, and he quickly became a focal point of the investigation. Allen was a former schoolteacher with a disturbing past. His demeanor and background made him a person of interest, and his connection to the case grew stronger with each new piece of information. He had been fired from his job for alleged sexual misconduct with students, a dark chapter in his life that only added to the suspicion surrounding him. He owned a Zodiac brand watch and boots, items that seemed to tie him to the infamous killer. These possessions were more than just coincidences. They were potential links in a chain of evidence. And he even lived in Vallejo, where the first murders took place. His proximity to the crime scenes made him an even more compelling suspect. There was circumstantial evidence too. Pieces of the puzzle that, while not definitive, painted a troubling picture of Allen's potential involvement. Witnesses placed Allen near the scene of one of the attacks. Their testimonies added weight to the growing case against him. He owned a bloody knife that was never conclusively linked to the crimes. This piece of evidence, while damning, was not enough to secure a conviction. And he bore a striking resemblance to the police sketch of the Zodiac. The similarities were uncanny, further fueling the belief that Allen could be the killer. Despite the suspicions, there was never enough concrete evidence to charge Allen. The case against him remained circumstantial, and the lack of definitive proof kept him out of prison. He remained a person of interest until his death in 1992. His passing marked the end of an era, but the questions about his involvement lingered. Other suspects emerged over the years, a cartoonist, a drifter, even a prominent politician's son. Each new name brought fresh hope and renewed scrutiny. Each had their proponents and their detractors. The debate over their potential guilt was fierce, with evidence and counter-evidence flying in all directions. Each suspect had their own set of mysteries and inconsistencies. The detectives found themselves in heated debates trying to piece together the truth from a sea of conflicting information. But none could be definitively linked to the crimes. The lack of concrete evidence meant that the true identity of the Zodiac remained shrouded in mystery. The lack of a definitive suspect only deepened the mystery, fueling speculation and conspiracy theories. The public's imagination ran wild, with theories ranging from the plausible to the outlandish. The case became a cultural phenomenon, with people from all walks of life offering their own theories and solutions. The Zodiac's identity became a topic of endless debate and fascination. The question remained, who was the face behind the mask? The mystery of the Zodiac killer endures, a dark enigma that continues to captivate and confound. Section 4. Inside the mind of a monster, the Zodiac's profile. What kind of person could commit such horrific acts and then revel in the terror they inflicted? The Zodiac killer remains one of the most enigmatic and terrifying figures in criminal history. His ability to evade capture while taunting the authorities and the public has left an indelible mark on the collective psyche. But who was he really? What drove him to commit such heinous acts, and what can we learn from his psychological profile? Criminal profilers, piecing together the clues from the crime scenes and the letters, attempted to construct a psychological portrait of the Zodiac. They delved deep into his actions, his communications, and his choice of victims, trying to understand the mind behind the mask. Each letter, each crime scene, was a piece of a larger puzzle that they hoped would reveal the true identity of this elusive killer. They saw a man driven by a need for power and control. His ego was as inflated as his sense of self-importance. The Zodiac's actions were not random. They were calculated and deliberate, designed to instill fear and assert his dominance. He saw himself as superior, a puppet master pulling the strings of a terrified public. He craved attention and validation, even if it came in the form of fear and notoriety. The media coverage of his crimes was like fuel to his fire, feeding his insatiable need for recognition. Each headline, each news report, was a testament to his power and control over the narrative. His letters were a twisted form of self-aggrandizement, a way to exert control over the police, the media, and the public at large. They were meticulously crafted to provoke fear and confusion, filled with cryptic messages and taunts that kept everyone on edge. The Zodiac reveled in the chaos he created, knowing that he was always one step ahead. The Zodiac was methodical and organized, carefully planning his attacks and taking steps to avoid capture. He studied his victims, chose his locations with precision, and left just enough clues to keep the authorities guessing. His meticulous nature made him a formidable adversary, always staying one step ahead of those who sought to bring him to justice. He enjoyed toying with his victims, instilling fear and uncertainty. The thrill of the hunt, the power he felt in those moments, was intoxicating. Each encounter was a game, a deadly dance where he held all the cards. The fear in his victim's eyes was a reflection of his own twisted sense of superiority. His crimes weren't just about taking lives, they were about asserting dominance, playing a deadly game of cat and mouse. The Zodiac saw himself as the ultimate strategist, always in control, always several moves ahead. Each murder was a move on his chessboard, a calculated step in his grand design. The ciphers, too, were a form of psychological manipulation, a way to taunt and frustrate those trying to unmask him. They were complex, filled with hidden meanings and codes that only he understood. The frustration of the investigators was a source of amusement for the Zodiac, a testament to his intellectual superiority. He reveled in the attention, the fear, the mystery. The more the public and the authorities tried to decipher his messages, the more he enjoyed the game. The Zodiac thrived on the chaos he created, knowing that he was the center of a dark and twisted narrative that captivated an entire nation. He was a master manipulator, pulling the strings of a terrified public. Every move, every letter, every cipher was a calculated act of control. The Zodiac Killer remains a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity and the terrifying power of psychological manipulation. Section 5. The Hunt for Clues Police Investigations. The Zodiac case was a logistical nightmare for law enforcement. The crime spanned multiple jurisdictions, creating a patchwork of investigations with varying degrees of coordination. Leads were followed, witnesses interviewed, evidence collected, but the killer always seemed to be one step ahead. The police pored over the letters and ciphers, desperate for a break. They developed suspects, meticulously building cases against them only to have them crumble under scrutiny. The pressure to catch the Zodiac mounted with each passing day, fueled by a terrified public and a media frenzy. Despite their best efforts, the police were unable to prevent further attacks. The Zodiac continued to terrorize the Bay Area, seemingly at will. The case went cold, then heated up again with each new letter or possible sighting. But the killer's identity remained a frustratingly elusive mystery. Section 6. DNA, A New Hope for Justice. Decades passed. The Zodiac case faded from the headlines, but it never truly went away. It remained an open wound, a symbol of justice denied. But with the advent of DNA technology, a glimmer of hope emerged. Forensic science, once a rudimentary tool, had advanced by leaps and bounds. DNA analysis in particular had revolutionized criminal investigations, providing irrefutable evidence to convict the guilty and exonerate the innocent. Could this powerful tool finally unmask the Zodiac? In recent years, investigators have re-examined evidence from the Zodiac case, hoping to find traces of the killer's DNA. Stains on clothing, hairs found at crime scenes, even the saliva used to seal the Zodiac's letters have been scrutinized. The hope is that by comparing these samples to DNA databases, they might find a match, finally bringing closure to this decades-old mystery.